Sonnet 4.6 is here and it may replace Opus for 90% of what you do day to day. Check this out. I gave the exact same prompt for Sonnet 4.5, Opus 4.6, and the brand new Sonnet 4.6. We asked it to go through and just build out a SaaS pricing page with some key information in there, with some blur and some pop-up elements that go through. This was the output that we got for Sonnet 4.5. This was the output that we got for Opus 4.6, which is much better than what we got before. Lots more elements within it and extra details that we love to see. But watch this. This was the output that we got for Sonnet 4.6, and initially it may look exactly the same as what we got for Opus. But if we come further down here, it's added a lot more details and proactively added in, for example, this table here so that a user can easily identify all of the different parts. So that's 90% of the output from Opus 4.6. But the best part, it's 40% cheaper than using Opus 4.6. In this video, we're going to quickly cover what's new with Sonnet 4.6 that you need to be aware of and when you should use Sonnet versus Opus 4.6. So what makes Sonnet 4.6 so good? Well, they've done a bunch of upgrades throughout the entire model and how you're able to use it. They've upgraded the model skills across coding, how it's able to use the computer, and that's a really big angle for this model, the long context reasoning, agent planning, knowledge work, design elements, and it's now also got the feature of a 1 million token context window. And what that means is you've now got about 750,000 words that you can put through, whereas previously we're looking at about 250,000 tokens or about 200,000 words. So much more information we can put through. It's got improved coding skills, and we really noticed that for some specific tasks, which I'll share later on. We've also got improvements in the consistency and following instructions when it comes to coding. But one of the big angles I think they've taken with Sonnet 4.6 is that everyday use. As we can see here, it's gradually getting better and better for that computer usage, and we're now starting to see this even equaling human level capabilities for navigating complex spreadsheets, filling out forms, and being able to pull information across multiple tabs. And this will be a game changer for how we use it with Claude Code in Excel. So where are the major differences? Well, as you'd expect, Opus 4.6 still leads in a lot of the different categories, but we're starting to see Sonnet 4.6 rapidly catch up. For example, with the agentic coding task, we're now able to see that they're almost on par with Sonnet 4.6, only 1 point behind at 79.6%, whereas Opus 4.6 is around 80.8%. We can also see that we're now on par for that agentic computer use, more or less, and if we come down, that tool use as well. But it's actually beating Opus in some of the capabilities. So if we come down here, and this is where I really think they're targeting Sonnet for that everyday use, it's now actually beating Opus by 3% for that financial analysis that it's able to complete. And it got some of the best shopkeeping records, which we'll see in a second. And it's slightly beating Opus 4.6 for those office tasks being completed. And this intelligence really starts to show where they went through and actually got it to run a pretend business. It actually developed an interesting new strategy where it invested heavily at the start, spending significantly more than its competitors' time, planning and really identifying what it needs to do before pivoting sharply at the end to become more profitable. And that's something we see a lot, is that more intelligence, less laziness and less hallucinations for the outputs we're trying to get. And yes, when you look on paper, Opus still beats out a lot of the use cases compared to Sonnet, but don't think that you should never use Sonnet in the day-to-day work. So when should you use Sonnet versus Opus 4.6? Well, if you've basically got less than 3 files when you're working through a task, actually Sonnet is the best way to go. But if you've got a large file or complex task, that's where switching to Opus can be really useful. So for example, when you're going through it and using it in Claude Code, if you're getting it to do simple elements like a React component or fixing some bugs, API endpoints, anything like this, Sonnet is definitely the way to go, especially considering how cheap it is, and of course the more tokens you'll put through before your usage is actually up. When you want to use Opus 4.6 is when you've got the full picture that needs to be analyzed, designing and deep planning sessions, you've got lots of different coding elements that you need to go through and use. That's when you need the extra power for Opus 4.6. But as we saw earlier on, that UI design from Sonnet can actually be fantastic. This is going to change how I'm starting to build and use it within Claude Code. I'm definitely going to be using Opus for that big picture and planning sessions, but definitely going to be using Sonnet 4.6 in more of those day-to-day elements of building out and updating aspects within Claude Code or actually generating new ideas so that we can get the outputs, but much cheaper. So Opus 4.6 is definitely still the agent you want to use if you've got a deep reasoning task that it needs to complete or complex project, such as refactoring a code base or coordinating multiple agents. But otherwise, simple day-to-day usage is definitely where Sonnet 4.6 comes into play. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. We got lots about AI and automation. If you want to learn more, make sure to come across to the community. And of course, stay tuned for the next video and have a great day.